Berg. Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Our next guest has been with us before, and last time he was on, I remember just being so amazed at what he has been able to accomplish with his life. I'll start it off this way. I can remember hearing the report that said there has been an explosion in Oklahoma City. We don't have any details right now. We'll keep you, alerted or whatever they would have said. And of course, it was the story of the bombing of the Edward R. Murrow building in Oklahoma City. Our next guest is Donald W. Tucker. He was a federal law enforcement officer, or is, I guess. Once you are, you never are not, right?
Yes.
He oversaw the investigation of the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. He has retired from the Secret Service. He served as the U.S. Marshal for the state of Arizona, currently owns Tucker Investigation and Protection Services. They must have stories upon stories that they could share with us. The agency is a private investigation agency, by the way. And he's written some really wonderful books, including a new one. It's called Immaculate Deception. A U.S. Secret Service agent cracks a Vatican counterfeiting and pedophile case. It's a thriller novel, but I'm sure with his background, a lot of what we read are probably some real-life scenarios that he was able to intertwine into the story. And Donald Tucker, it's good to have you back on again. Good morning, Donald.
Larry, good morning. It's my pleasure. And good morning, Robin.
Good morning.
And where are you right now?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. Do you know one of the things that happens to me when I bring up that maybe a priest has gotten into trouble, or that a Marine has gotten into trouble, or anybody who has a title that is revered? I always get somebody who says, why did you have to say a Marine? Why couldn't you just say a man? Why did you have to say a priest? Why couldn't you just say a man? And I think it's because, and not that we're trying to slur all Marines or all military. My goodness, you know how much I respect the military. Or priest or religion in general. I wouldn't do that at all. But it is part of the story, isn't it?
It is a part of the story. And again, I would like to, just add to your comment. The book was not an intent to slur or make derogatory comments about the entire Roman Catholic Church. It was basically based on my research, and some of the things that I was finding doing the research for the book was unbelievable.
Okay, and I want to go there again. I want to come back to that. But just with your background, I'm guessing that if you are, let me put it real simple because that's the way I am. If you're looking for a bad guy and you catch the bad guy and you find out that this guy was a robber, he harmed his wife. I mean, he's got such a bad track record, you probably are not surprised. But I bet you even with your background, as extensive as it is, you probably still raise your eyebrows when you arrest somebody and it turns out he was like the principal of a school, or a priest or something like that. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Sometimes even with my over 30 years law enforcement experience, I have to, sometimes, sit down, take a deep breath, shake my head and say, I can't believe this is happening.
Does the book parallel any real news that is maybe about to be revealed, or would you believe could be revealed soon about the Catholic Church?
Well, it's very interesting that we're talking this morning. There was a program on PBS last night. It's on PBS Frontline. It's called Secrets of the Vatican. Mm-hmm. I suggest if you can somehow get that a link to that, It actually details a lot of things that were happening from the time Pope Benedict was the Pope up until the time of Pope Francis's tenure.
And do you feel like Pope Benedict was forced to retire?
I believe that he was overwhelmed by all the things that were going on, and I believe it got to one point since he was, up in age, that he just decided, I can't deal with this.
The book is called Immaculate Deception. Very clever title, by the way. So, how do we do this? Let's see. Let me ask you to give like a movie trailer version of the story, and then we'll kind of go back and forth between the fiction and what you've hinted at so far. How about that?
Okay. I started writing the book, and I used a counterfeiting case that I had in Chicago. And the bad guy was connected with the Catholic Church. And I had no idea that I would have to change in midstream, the whole theme of the book. But the research just forced me. I said, I've got to have some way, to put this out in the open. So I started with the counterfeiting case. I started with the person working for the Chicago diocese, and it led me to different scenarios where I tried to understand. The Catholic Church so far has paid out over $2 billion to settle the sexual abuse claims. Wow. all over the world. And I came up with an idea that what if the Catholic Church ran out of money? And everybody knows that the Catholic Church has a lot of money, but I was using a fictional scenario where the Catholic Church decided we can't keep paying this much money. It will totally ruin the Vatican and the Catholic churches, because a lot of the Catholic churches were going bankrupt all over the country. So I used a scenario that what if my bad guy was connected with the church and got into counterfeiting again, right, and worked with the Vatican in order to print counterfeit currency.
Now, okay, you said print counterfeit currency. In today's day and age, could a counterfeiter really counterfeit money without even printing a single bill? Are we able to counterfeit electronically?
Yes, some of the advanced copiers today, are being used to print, counterfeit U.S. $100 and $20 bills. So the U.S. Secret Service has made several attempts to improve the security features in currency today. And if you look at a bill from 20 years ago, and you look at the bills now, like a $20 bill or a $100 bill or a $50 bill, you will see a vast difference in the currency.
And what about the electronic? Could a bad guy go into my bank, or go to his own bank, I guess, and add some zeros?
He can pass the bills. One of the problems that I had when I worked with the Secret Service, and I'm sure they're having the same problems now. A lot of the people at the banks are not as attentive as it should be. They have training programs, how to identify bills and counterfeit bills from a genuine bill. But after a period of not seeing a counterfeit bill, the watchfulness is lowered, and they have a tendency to, not stay on top of the training that they had previously.
What's amazing to me is the vast background you have, and you, according to the notes, continued to need to do research in order to write this book. I would have thought that over the years and years of experience, you would have had enough that you've seen, but there was still research that you did even for today's novel, isn't it?
Yes, I did a lot of research, and a lot more of the research had to do with the Vatican and the Catholic Church. The experiences that I had with counterfeiting and a lot of the fiction, that came from, true life experiences. And it was easy, to draw something up as far as the counterfeiting case. But starting with trying to integrate the factual information from my research, it was very difficult, because my main characters, the good guys, mm-hmm. Initially I wanted them to be approximately late 30s, early 40s. But because I needed to somehow integrate some of this factual stuff with the Catholic Church, their age, as you probably can read in the book, they're now in their 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of your credentials, sir, when you were doing the research, were you able to go into places to have one-on-one conversations with people or look at archived documents that the regular person would be unable to?
Not really. I a lot of my research, has been on the internet. And with things that are happening, I read the newspapers, magazines, every day to see if I can get more information. That's how I found out about that PBS program that was on last night. And every time I Google something about the Vatican or the problems with the Roman Catholic Church, I get something new. And I know a lot of things that have happened with the Catholic Church. A lot of the abuses that you have heard about were back in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. But if you really stay on top of it, some of these abuses are still happening. And one interesting thing that I decided to talk about is the fact that there was a Hispanic woman in New Mexico that went for a confession. She was found dead floating in the river.
Oh my!
Now my background would say, okay, what is the evidence? Her body was partially nude. She had candelabras, attached to her body. She had a mimeograph device attached to her body. In my experience, an attempt to try to weigh the body down.
Right.
The investigation determined that all of this stuff came from the priest who gave her her confession.
Oh my!
Now this is a cold case, but it really bugs me the fact that all of this evidence, and they refuse, to the prosecuting attorney, refused to initially bring it to trial.
Wow. And is he still there? Is he still a priest?
Well, he's not a priest anymore. Because what they did was they transferred him, from New Mexico to other parishes. And this is one of the problems with how they deal with pedophile priests. If they find out that the priest is the subject of investigation, they transfer him, to other locations to keep him away from the local authorities.
So how did the word pedophile get into that conversation? How old was the woman?
Oh, the woman was in her 30s.
Okay, so I'm confused how pedophile was associated with him.
Well, when you read the book, a lot of the information came from priests who were abusing kids. But some of the priests, like there was one priest, and he is probably the worst one that they ever found. He not only abused kids, he abused women.
Oh, okay.
young women.
Okay.
And the young women eventually had kids. And I was looking at the program last night, and they interviewed one of the priest's son. And the son actually started to cry, saying that him and his brother were also abused by this same priest. And he started to cry and couldn't even finish the interview.
Oh my gosh.
Those type of things, the more I got into it, the more passionate I got. And I started to sometimes, talk to myself. I say, now, if I or you or Robin abuse someone, that's a crime. With the church, they considered it a sin. And when it's a sin, you can go to confession and expose your sin,
right.
And you are forgiven, and you walk away. So why is that? Why are these horrendous priests allowed to get away with that?
Okay, so what you've said so far, though, is an actual story, and you intertwined that with the fictional story, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And why? Why didn't you just write, with your investigative skills, why didn't you just write the story?
Well, the story has been written. This happened in 1960, and this is a cold case that they're still talking about. I think CNN had a huge program on what happened and why this guy is walking around.
Wow.
And I find out that with the research, the guy is living in Arizona.
Wow, he's still around.
We had been told that you had said that DreamWorks had been working on a film project about
Yes.
the scandals of the church, but now they stopped. Were they forced to stop?
I've been trying to find that out. I was talking to a couple of friends who are in the movie business in L.A., and they said, they don't know what happened. The DreamWorks is just basically trying to say that, well, this happened in 2000 and the early 2000s, and maybe people had enough of it and they won't watch, so it wasn't a financial gain for them. Now that could be true, but I also know that the church is very, very powerful.
Do you know, just an interesting observation about the way we are as a society. If you hear in the news that somebody like Hugh Hefner or Larry Flint is having an affair, nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Nobody says, well, you expect the devil to do devilish things, right? But when you hear that, who's the guy that was ousted for having an affair with the secretary a long time ago?
Oh,
Jim Baker or something like that?
Yeah,
okay.
that's it.
But you hear a guy like that, you hear a pastor or a priest or a religious figure suddenly having everything comes toppling down. That's the end of their career.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you would think. And what you pointed out in the cases of the priests, it's not necessarily because it's not a crime, it's a sin, at least in their eyes.
Right.
So, but I often wonder, as a society, when we expose somebody who is supposed to be next to God as falling from grace, are we doing it in a way to slur God himself? Or I'm sure you're not intentionally doing that, but I'm wondering if that's how it looks to somebody like an atheist who wants to say, "See, there you go, there's your religion for you," right?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
The Catholic Church has been in semi-upheaval for years. These abuse cases have been going on for years, and the parishioners, have been so alienated with what has been happening. A lot of them have stopped going to church. I was talking to a woman who's a friend of mine who was Catholic, and we were talking about my book, and I asked her, what was her feelings, and she said, she was disgusted, and she said that she has 2 daughters. She said, but she doesn't go to church like she used to, and she is schooling her daughters in as far as the meaning of the Catholic religion. And I asked her, I said, well, that is excellent, but what is going to happen with the Catholic Church if everyone takes your stance, stop going to church, and educate their children about the religion at home? Doesn't the situation with all the abuse and things going on with the church continue? And she said yes. And I said, well, what is that accomplishing what you want? And she looked at me and said, no, it's not, but Don, I can't go against my church.
There was one part in the book where a tracking chip is implanted underneath a groin tattoo. Mm-hmm. Is that something that is really done? Are people, putting tracking chips in other people? Did I lose you? Uh-oh, are you there? Donald?
Don?
Breaking
Can you
up.
hear me?
There you are.
Yeah,
Okay, there you are.
There you are. Now you're back. Okay, were you able to hear my question?
Yeah, the tracking devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's used in law enforcement, on a regular basis. It's not like the old days when you're trying to follow someone or track someone.
So people, they don't know it, though? The people who have the chip in them, they don't know it?
No. So the people who have chip in, they know it, but sometimes, you can, meet someone in a bar and drop something into their drink and, walk them out to the car, and they're basically, unconscious. And you can take him somewhere and implant the chip, put his clothes back on, take him back to where the bar is, and just tell him, that, you passed out, and I was making sure that you would, be okay, and let the guy walk away, and the guy never really knows it until, he feels some pain or something.
Or he got an itchy spot in his groin. What the heck is that? It's so itchy down there.
Well, that's one of the blessings about books like yours, is that this really will get people to talk about it again, bring the subject up again, and just try to make the Catholic Church pure again. And hopefully that when the priests or the nuns or whoever it is that's doing the abusing gets found out, that they will be ousted, their career will be ruined, and they'll have a label on them.
Well, and that's the thing that, in my opinion, which should happen. But as a caveat, it's going to be tough. I think that there's a ingrained group of people that work in the Vatican that I think Pope Francis mentioned it when he was on a trip to South America, and they call it the gay mafia.
Right.
That is really entrenched, at the Holy See. And I think that is going to be the biggest problem. And, in that program, one of the things, they interviewed a Italian prosecutor. And basically he said the only thing he worries about is that if the mafia, which has been funneling currency through the Vatican Bank, gets upset, there's no idea of what they will do. And I kind of worry about the safety of the Pope if he makes these big changes.
Well, he's a very, very brave man, because somebody has to be a leader, and he's one of the best ones.
Yeah, he is, and he's bringing some of the staunch Catholics, back to church, and that's good, But so far he hasn't hit the real button that's going to make all the people squirm.
Wow. Even without your background, this is an outstanding book. You write in such a way that you don't want to put the book down. I'll tell you, 2 days ago I responded to my subpoena to serve jury duty.
Yes.
and my experience was basically sitting around in a big room with a lot of other people with nothing to do.
Right.
And they had a table with books, and they said, if you want to pick up a book, you're welcome to read it. If you want to take it home, we ask that you leave a donation in the box. If I had picked up your book, I would, first of all, two things. I would have been reading it, and I would be looking around to make sure nobody's reading off my shoulder. and second of all, I definitely would have put that donation in the box and taken it home. It's one of those that you don't want to put down. It's called Immaculate Deception, and Donald Tucker has an amazing background that gives him an insight into a lot of these things that he writes about. Interesting, especially considering the news of the day. Not to say in any way that religion or the Catholic Church or priests in general are bad. But there are good people doing bad things, as there are bad people doing bad things. So.
Yes, there are.
Right.
All right, so let me give away the copy I have, and the rest of us have to go buy it. Let me take a phone call first and give it away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Hi, Larry. This is June, but I just want to say one thing. May I?
Sure.
Everyone has to remember that God is not to blame for any of this. It's man that's corrupted.
There you go.
Right.
God did not do any of this. Man has free choice, and look what happens. We all know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was just what I wanted to interject, Larry.
Okay, June.
Okay?
Did you want the book?
Actually, you can give that book to whoever you want, because I just want to talk about what I said before just now about the Lord is not responsible for this. You can't blame God.
That is so important to remind us of, yes. And I hope nobody thought we were trying to imply anything otherwise.
No, you didn't. I just wanted to make that point, because sometimes people get confused that if they're not right with the Lord, they feel that they can blame the Lord for things that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very strong point, and I'm so glad you made it, June. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
for
God
that.
bless y'all.
Yeah, thank you. And I was trying to hint that. I think she articulated it better than I did. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Betty.
Betty. The book is here waiting for you, okay?
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. It's called Immaculate Deception. And Donald, it's always an honor to be able to say you were on our show. Can you tell us how to get the book?
It's on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or on the website. My website is DonaldWTucker.com.
Yes. Okay. DonaldWTucker.com. Again, the book Immaculate Deception. How many books do you finish a year?
Well, this is my third one.
Okay.
Since I retired, and
Right.
I'm not sure what the future is going to hold. I wish I had known all about this stuff about the Vatican and the Catholic Church before, because I probably would have just written a book about what I was finding.
Right. Oh, that could be your next one. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Donald, thank you for being on our show, and come back.
All right, Robin, Larry, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
sir.
We'll be right back.
Legally Yours, brought to you by Fuller & Fuller Attorneys at Law. On the air every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. with John Fuller, a board-certified civil trial lawyer for over 25 years. John welcomes your questions, from business to complex family matters to legal disputes. So tune in every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Legally Yours with John Fuller, right here on WOCA 1370 AM and 96.3 FM, The Source.